Read This, Author's Corner. I am your host, Alice Maria, and today I am so excited to have with me author Denise Haynes, the author of The Talent Show. Welcome, Denise.
Yeah.
Welcome, Denise. It's so great to have you on Read This. I'm so excited to talk about your book. I've enjoyed what I've read so far, but before we jump into all of that, please tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, thank you, Alice. It's really great to be here with you. Where do I start? I have been writing all of my life. I declared myself to be an author at a very young age. And that was usually humored by my family. But as I grew, I always wrote. And finally, when the pandemic came, I've done lots of things in between. I have been a teacher, I've been an attorney, I've been a flight attendant. And when the pandemic came, I was an attorney, and I realized that the world went quiet, and this was my opportunity. So I began to write Talent Show. I live in Barbados. I am originally from Trinidad, so a Caribbean woman, really, and or Caribbean, as some people say. And I have 2 kids, grown adult children. Yeah. And I'm married. And I'm really enjoying being a writer, finally.
Excellent. Well, before we talk about the story, what was the inspiration behind the name of the book? What was the inspiration for Talent Show?
What's really fun is that it started off with another name. And it was when I was finished that the editor said to me, "Are there any other titles?" And I thought about it for a day or so, and then Talent Show popped up.
Okay.
But I guess to answer both questions, I would say that I did grow up in a large family. I am the last of a large family. So part of that inspiration is from my own family. And also, I grew up at a time in the Caribbean and in a sort of a neighborhood and so on where people had large families.
Mm-hmm.
So some of it is drawn from neighbors, cousins, people I've observed. So it's a sort of a mosaic, a collage of my family and other families and families I've imagined and families I've known. And so that's where it came from.
Okay, because that was one of my stories, that was one of my questions, because I see that you come from a family of 10, if I'm
correct. Yes.
And I was like, well, how much of the interplay crosses over from your being? But I get the whole mosaic of people and characters.
Right. And changing outcomes, because if you write things just as they happen as a writer, that's great. But when you can be creative and change outcomes and adjust personalities and so on, that's fun.
Yeah. One of the things that I like about your book, is the fact that it's a story. It's what I call quiet stories, right? Because so many things are so over the top and so extremely dramatic and hard. And sometimes that comes with a lot of trauma.
Yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah.
And quite often, life has so much of that. So I don't really find an escape in that type of story, but I do find an escape in stories that you can learn about history and culture. And I feel like there's so much in life that you can learn from, and it doesn't have to be overly dramatic or overly intense for you to gain something out of it. So I was really appreciating just being able to smile along and feeling like I escaped. So was that your intention when you wrote the book?
it wasn't a direct intention. As it began to take shape, I began to realize that I was really just talking about the everyday and the inner. And so once I was aware of that, yes, it did become my intention. And I think when I finished it, one of my friends read it and she said, who reads a lot, and she said, it was really refreshing not to have and to read about anybody's, murder or traumas. there are things there that you would imagine would have been traumatic for the characters, but you don't
Right.
descend into that.
Right.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
life has its own traumas. You don't
Yeah.
go through life without, having death or having stuff
Exactly.
happen. But
Exactly.
it's a different when it's a play on everything that kind of transpires in life than when
Yeah.
it feels like it is the direction that the car is being driven. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah. I
The
get you.
car is
Yeah.
not driving down the road and gets into an accident. The car is driving into the tree.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah. And I think one of the things that I appreciated while it was coming out organically was that it made me realize how rich life is
Yes.
without that drama, that there's a beauty and a value and a richness in just a life lived. And so I think sometimes we forget that because we have so many screens before us showing people in, elevated lives or lives of real hardship or whatever. And we forget the depth of life that we can have in what looks like an ordinary life from
Yeah.
the outside.
And I think that those are beautiful stories. And I quite often feel like it doesn't come out of people of color very often. It's like
Yeah.
a lot of the stories are so hard and traumatic. We don't have a lot of the notebook and the this and, the light,
Yes.
fluffy
Yes.
stuff.
Yes. I
The
got you.
light,
Yeah.
fluffy stuff. And it doesn't even have to be fluffy, but lighter, you know.
Correct.
Um,
Oh, yeah. Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
so I appreciated the way the book was written and to be able to have that you took us into a time period and the
Mm-hmm.
way people behaved and act and quite different than what we hear is that you had this loving father of all these daughters.
Yeah.
And as a daddy's girl,
Yeah.
I just truly appreciated someone telling that story. So what brought that story into view?
Yeah. How should I say? You grow up as a female with all of these wonderful females around you. You have your mothers, your sisters, your aunts, and so on. And somehow, when I sat to write this book, the voice that came up was my dad's. And I guess, my dad, my uncle, my friend's father. I began to think of all the fathers that I knew and to realize how much they would have to say. And so that's what sort of led me along this path. And it was also a path of remembering fathers because most of these guys are now no longer with us. And just remembering the little things, and that, for example, if you had not a problem, but you were having a difficulty with a person,
Mhm.
or if you were playing sports and you found that this particular opponent always got the better of you, that mom was not the person you went to. It would be dad. And he would say to you, well, and sometimes it would be very hard to hear, well, she didn't win, you lost. That kind of way. You gave it up here, you gave it up there. What were you thinking about when you stepped on to that, to play that match and all of that? So as I wrote and as the voice came out, I began to realize how much of a perspective fathers can have and how useful that can be, because mothers are like so close to it, you know. And these days that's changed. I realize that fathers are much more engaged now, but still, I think that I began to realize that the closeness of a mother doesn't always allow that perch that the father has. Yeah.
And I just feel that sometimes female guidance is totally different than male guidance.
Yeah.
Sometimes female guidance is step by step. Do
Yeah.
this, do that, do this, and this.
Correct. Yeah.
Where male guidance can possibly be like, no, like you said,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
you missed the mark.
Yeah.
Like, and there's a little bit more critical thinking
Yeah.
sometimes when you get a male's perspective, because they're not giving you all the answers.
Yeah, exactly. And even with male friends, I have observed that you know the take of my girlfriends on something would be entirely different from the take of a male friend. Yes. And so, you know, that's always interesting.
It's funny you say that, because I feel like that's part of the biggest issue now, when there's like this thing where the men and the women don't understand each other, or misunderstanding. I'm like, you don't have enough mixed friends.
Yeah, correct. Your
friend group is too isolated.
Correct.
And because of that, you don't get to see multiple perspectives, you know? So it does make a difference. And then I love the fact that you went into some cultural things, because I don't want to give the book away, but I do want to tease.
Yeah.
I do want to tease, because the the whole the conversation about being able to see the unseen. So talk to me a little bit about how that came about.
Well, you know, it was so much part of the milieu I grew up in. The Caribbean culture, we are much more open to that life, where everything is not on the physical level, where there's mystery and there's, you know, knowing, and there's stuff that you can't explain. So I felt that evoking the context of the Caribbean, with its life and its colors and its smells and its different way of doing things, I felt that was very much a part that had to be there. And because it was also something that I grew up with, I mean, you were taken to church on Sundays, but no one would ever bat an eyelid if someone said that they thought they saw a ghost.
Right.
Or if someone said that they knew that this was going to happen. It was almost sort of mixed into your religious beliefs in a way.
Right.
So it's very much the fabric. It's part of the fabric, I think, of life in the Caribbean. And so I think it came out organically. And I did have a second look and wonder, does this stay in? And my editor said, no way, it stays, because it absolutely completes the picture of the Caribbean. Yeah. So that's.
I love the fact that it brought dimensionality.
Yeah.
To what life really feels like. It's funny, because I was born on the day that my dad buried his mom.
Okay.
So growing up, I would do things and he would call me by her name, like, yes, Salvarita.
Okay.
So that whole, like, just that knowing that I got her spirit, because I read and work with authors a lot.
Yeah.
I am so excited and intrigued, and just really feel good when we tell the depth of our stories, and we don't necessarily shy away from things, but like, this is the whole story. This is the whole
Correct.
picture. So
Correct.
I appreciated
Yeah.
that in reading your book. Is there something else that you felt really came out that might have surprised you? Um, or was like,
Mm.
that's a pleasant memory or something?
Uh, I think there were things that came out as I was writing, and what was interesting is that they weren't all my memories
Okay.
of my family. So, for example, I remember writing a piece and of it and saying to my sister, "Do you remember when this happened?" And she said, "Well, that didn't happen to us." And I'm saying, "No way." And she's, "Yes, it didn't happen to us. It happened to someone two houses down."
Mm,
And that then made me realize how much of my lens was external,
mm,
whereas I was thinking it was within the family. So then you realize how much you import from the community into your home, and it becomes part of your memory. So I thought that was interesting. And I like that because then I was writing about something much bigger than just my family or my friends. I was writing about the community. Um, I think I also like the fact that one of the things that I drew from it when I was finished with it was that it takes all kinds. I mean, it's an expression that we use quite often, but it takes all kinds. And within a family, that is so much more so. And so I kind of hope that people would see that it takes all kinds and that everyone really has the right to be who they are. You can only do you. I can only do me.
right.
And at the end of the day, uh, that's who the person is.
Yeah, that was,
So, yeah, go ahead.
no, I was
Yeah.
going to say that was also very interesting is how you kind of gave the characters their own little space to
Yeah.
share
Yeah.
who they are,
Yeah.
how they thought, how they operated. Um,
Right.
so they weren't just like thrown into the story
Yeah.
as a part of the seasoning. They had their own identity within the story. That was
Yes. Yes. And it also showed that, parents have a particular view of things and they think they know the whole story. And then sometimes the kids can really fill in the blanks and say, well, no, there are things you didn't know. And sometimes the children know this about each other.
Mhm.
Sometimes they don't.
Right.
So it shows that there's really the idea that there's one family version of a family story is just not possible
Right.
because we each see things differently as human beings.
Yeah, and that was a very interesting part that you kind of pulled out of through in your book is just depending on where you are in the when you came into being, the
Mm-hmm.
stage of life, whether you're the oldest or the youngest or the
Correct.
middle
Yeah.
or the
Mm-hmm.
parent or the
Yeah.
child, your
Mm-hmm.
perspective. I remember somebody say the perspective of a turtle is totally different than the perspective of a giraffe, right?
Yeah. Correct. Correct.
So
Exactly.
and so the fact that you told the story, but then there was this opportunity for other perspectives of
Mm-hmm.
it
Yeah. Yeah.
because there's a component missing. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, you have the story, but why did so and
Yeah.
so come in like this?
Exactly. Yeah.
Because you weren't outside when this happened to know why that happened. So,
Right. Right. You're on the other side of the fence playing a game, and you don't know what went on when you sent the youngest child over to the neighbors to get the ball. And you
right,
imagine that she was taking all of this time because she couldn't find it, whereas she was having a chat.
right,
So there are all these things, and it's so representative, I think, of life.
right.
In all of the professions or jobs that I have worked in my life, I've always really noticed that something would happen, and if you only had one person's story of it, you wouldn't have the whole story. And that a piece from someone else could make it seem so different. And so, yeah, so that's yeah.
It reminds me of Stephen Covey, The 7 Habits of Successful People.
Yes.
And one of the things that talks about is a paradigm shift, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is he uses the story of a woman on a train or subway, and the kids are running wild and just behaving. And then the people are kind of furious with her because she's not tending to her kids and she's letting her children misbehave in this public arena. And somebody says something to her, and she goes, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I just left the hospital. Their father died. And
Yeah, there you go.
trying to figure it all.
There you go. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm trying to figure it all out."
Yeah.
And I feel that that's what you give in your book, is you're telling the story, and then you're like, "Oh yeah, but okay, why don't we shift this paradigm a little bit and see it from a different angle, and see, do you feel the same way?"
Correct.
When you have more information.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's one of the things that I thought was beautiful about your artistry, your talent, how you use your talent.
Yeah. And when you get, well, when any reader gets to the last section, it's like there's a further light, beam of light, more information coming in that then amplifies the story and sheds light on things that maybe were not really so much of a question, but when the light is shed on them, then you realize, okay, so that's why they got married and so on.
Right.
So, yeah, I think it was, as I say, I wrote the book organically. What came out, I wrote, and so on. And I think that in writing the book, I kind of realized that there were layers of information that came out at different points of the book. And in much the same way that the father admitted that after he got married to his wife, they began to learn the layers of each other. Right. And that's really what, human relationships are about. Some people you never get beyond 1 or 2 layers because it's just not that kind of relationship. Right. But sometimes when you get to 3, 4, 5, the deeper you get, the more intriguing it becomes.
Yeah, and then there's something that you wrote in the book where he talks about when he married his wife, the 16-year-old, and after her first child, he never saw that person again. That there was a different person. So different experiences bring out different parts of your personality. They might all be there, but there's no reason for them to show up until they're needed, right?
Correct. Yeah, that's true.
So so I found that was a very interesting thought, because I had recently heard it before, but used in a different way, because someone was talking about forgiveness after infidelity, and the guy said, even if you get back together, you will never have the same person you had before that. That person is no longer there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you don't get to go backwards.
Mm-hmm.
Events alter the chemistry of the person the same way, If you, in science, you add a different component into it, you get a different, you add oil and
Result.
water together, you'll never get all oil and all water. There'll
Correct.
always
Yeah.
be traces
Yeah, that's true.
missing.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, when I was reading because in simple stories, and I say simple in the way that it's not this over the top drama. That's
Yeah.
what I mean
Yeah.
when I say simple. In stories that you have to depend on the story.
Yes. Correct. Yeah, that's
You,
very true.
you,
Yeah.
when you have to depend on the storytelling of the story,
Yeah.
there's so many lessons. There's so much of a nuance
Mm-hmm.
that is there that can be found in the layers of the conversation and the
Yeah.
actions, that if you have this, say, like a Hollywood blockbuster, right? If you got a lot
Yeah.
of fighting and bang,
Action. Yeah.
action, people get distracted by
Mm-hmm.
all of that, and those little quiet things that make you lean in and pay attention and go, oh wow, I see that so much differently
Right.
based on how you wrote it. I might have
Mm-hmm.
had a similar experience, but you wrote it in a way that now I get a different perspective of it. And that's the beauty for me in reading and storytelling, is
Yeah.
that when somebody can make me see things through a totally different lens.
That's right. That's right. And I think that I may describe myself as a writer, an author, but what I am is a storyteller. And I think at the dedication of my book, it's dedicated to my deceased sister, my husband, my children, and a friend. And I say it's because they honored the storyteller in me by listening. And that's really, I think, the highest praise I can receive is to say that I'm a storyteller. That's because that's how I see myself.
And you are a storyteller, and
Yeah.
you do a very an excellent job in painting pictures.
Yeah.
And because for me, I would rather read and watch a movie or listen to a book than watch a movie.
Yeah.
I have a
Same here.
very um my imagination is
Mm-hmm.
like, I turn words into pictures.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes in movies, for me personally,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like a overload of my sensories, because
Yeah.
you're kind of bombarding me with your view of it, and I don't appreciate it as much as I enjoy my view.
Right. Yeah. It's almost like it's being imposed on you.
Yes.
And sometimes if I read a book and then I see the movie, I'm thinking, oh no, they got that wrong.
Yeah.
That's not what that person should look like. Yeah.
So when I was reading your book and you're giving descriptions, and I'm like, yeah, I can see that. I can imagine that
Mm-hmm.
movie is playing in my head.
Ah,
So that's beautiful, because that's what storytelling is about, and that's why I really feel like I enjoyed the spirit of your book, was
mm-hmm.
because dramatic. It was
Yeah.
just telling the story of the ups and downs of life,
Mm.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That anybody could kind of like fall into this place and have an understanding,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had people, one person was an only child and said to me that they still related to
Mhm.
the story because it was about a family setting. So I think that was one of the things I kind of hoped for, that it would find people would relate to it regardless of what family background they came from. Because at the end of the day, it's about people wanting to be seen and heard. And I think
Right.
that's what, as human beings, we all want. We all want to be acknowledged, seen, heard. Yeah.
I really feel like you did a very good job of conveying that through your writing and your storytelling, and just again having it be something that you could just pick up and read. And you know, just in being a human being and knowing the trials and tribulations of life, that
Yeah.
you are going to be taken through some trials and tribulation, but you're not going to be traumatized
Right,
by
right,
the trials and
right,
tribulations. So I
right.
love the fact that I got to read something that I felt like, yeah, I could see this.
Mm-hmm.
This could have been my story or my neighbor's story. That could have been,
Exactly, exactly.
it felt so real like that to me. It felt,
Yeah,
that's the word I'm looking for. It
real.
felt real.
Thank you, Alice. That's a high compliment.
It
Thank you.
felt real. I
Mm,
mean, I've been searching for the word, and
yeah, there you
that's the
go.
word. It
Yeah, yeah,
real
yeah,
existence.
yeah. And that's where the whole talent show thing comes in because I wanted it to be for the reader as if they're stepping into some sort of theater viewpoint and the curtain was being drawn and they would be able to identify with what they saw on stage. So it's a sort of talent show in many ways. In that way, between the reader and the book, the novel, and then within the family as well, it was like a talent show. Everyone trying to show their talents, even if they don't know what they are. And then you had the actual talent show that existed within the family as entertainment. So yeah,
Yeah,
it was
that's
fun.
really, that's a beautiful way of seeing it. So, as we're kind of wrapping up with this,
Mhm.
what is it that you would like for the reader to take away from your book? You envision.
Uh, Someone asked me this before, and I think there are a couple of things. One of those things is that there's more to each of us than we see at the surface. And so accept that and know that everyone is just being themselves and trying to do their best, even if it doesn't look like it to us. That's their best. Their best may not be our best, but that's what it looks like. And also that, yeah, the depth of that lies behind people, behind everyone, that difficult colleague, that even that guy that, road rage, whatever. Behind everyone, there's that family background that makes them who they are. And I also hoped that siblings within a family would maybe have some acceptance of each other, even if that's not the easiest thing, by just recognizing that these are different people being themselves. So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm the youngest of seven. So yeah.
Okay, so you know about that youngest thing, yeah.
So what are you working on now? Are you
I just completed my second novel,
okay?
and it's in the editorial process right now.
Excellent.
And I'll just give you a little sneak preview.
I, I like breaking news.
Who doesn't? So you said something before about you can just pick up the book and read. Well, second novel is even more like that. I have in the writer's welcome that it's like a buffet,
Mm.
and you can sample as many or as few of the little there's sections, and then there's stories within the sections that connect in a way. And you can even shuffle the pack. You can read the last verse and whatever. So
Oh,
it's really, I'm really wanting the reader of that second novel to to take it as theirs, play with it, enjoy it as you would like. And so, because I'm so aware that we are all so busy now and so on, and sometimes you just really want to read 20 pages, 50 pages, whatever. And so I try to make that possible by having the book like a buffet. And it's entirely different from this book in terms of the themes and so on. Maybe there's some overlap, but I think it's fun. I really enjoyed writing it. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because I've never necessarily heard of a book done that way, but if anybody can do it, I could see where it would be you, just based on how you broke up the family but kept them together. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So when you said that, I'm like, okay, I could see that, because even when you're reading about the characters in the family, if you wanted to, they can go off and make their own story, right?
Correct. Yeah. Thank you, Alice. Thank you.
This has been such a wonderful conversation.
Indeed. Yeah.
Is there, and I love conversations. I don't, sorry, I'm losing my voice. I don't like interviews. I love.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Conversation is so much more, I think it's more relaxed, and it also sort of, you get to explore things more in a conversation. And I think that's what happened here today. I really enjoyed it.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed talking to you. I've enjoyed your talent and the way you've shared the book. So thank you so much for sharing your time to talk about the book.
Thank you, Alice. Thank you for having me. It's been a privilege and a pleasure.
I would like to thank my special guest, Denise Haynes, for joining us and speaking about her great book, The Talent Show. Please go out and pick up a copy. This has been Read This, Author's Corner. I am your host, Alice Maria. Keep reading, keep growing, and stay empowered.